You are listening to an exclusive preview of this week's episode of STF Underground.
We're going to stick with AEW for a little bit before we hop into everything Superstar Shakeup in WWE. And to do that, we're going to bring in Mr. Main Event. Mr. Main Event's going to cover AEW this time around, and we're going to explore the AEW talent roster as it expands. And take it away, Mr. Main Event.
It's
MME.
Whoop-de-ding-dong!
Welcome to In the Mind of Mr. Main Event. I am Mr. Main Event, a lifelong wrestling fan who's gone through many phases of fandom, including being a smart mark, a backyard wrestler, a trained professional wrestler, and now I'm back doing what I love, sitting back, watching, and being a fan of my favorite kind of entertainment, professional wrestling. We're going to step away from the WWE for this week's segment and head to the hype machine that is known as All Elite Wrestling. While I haven't had a show yet, and no, I don't count All In, they have to be the most exciting, anticipated fed to ever exist. We know they can sell shirts, we know they can sell tickets, we know they have some serious talent. And this week we take a look at that talent and ask the question, who is the biggest signing for AEW thus far? Now, I'm not going to include elite members for the answer to this question. We know the importance of Cody and the Young Bucks, and without them this venture wouldn't be happening. I'm going to pick one male and one female, so stick with me here. There's a lot of intriguing talent, some who I've never even heard of until they were mentioned or signed by AEW.
Michael Nagasawa? Who the hell's Michael Nagasawa? Hun, do you know anything about us signing Michael Nagasawa?
I'm familiar and a big fan of guys like Pac, Darby Allin, Joey Janela, Chucky T, and Trent, and I'm interested to see what to me is the unknown, like the Oriental Wrestling guys, Jungle Boy, and Sammy Guevara. But for me, the biggest signing on the AEW men's side is better than you, and you know it. It's Maxwell Jacob Friedman, aka MJF. If you aren't familiar with MJF, I suggest starting to take notice now, as he's one of the best characters and talkers in wrestling today. Having been able to see him at many AEW shows in Chicago, I can tell you one thing. When MJF comes out, everybody in the building starts paying attention. He gets immediate heat from the time he steps out of the curtain. When he's handed the mic, he eviscerates whomever he's targeting, and in the ring he can absolutely hold his own. He's not a high-flying big spot guy, he's a wrestler. He does what needs to be done, and overall he just plain excels at every aspect of being a professional wrestler. He was trained by Pat Buck and Kurt Hawkins, has been a wrestler for 4 years, and oh, by the way, he just turned 23 years old. And if you haven't seen his appearance on The Rosie O'Donnell Show, I suggest you fire up the YouTube machine immediately.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine.
MJF is already really good, and he's only going to get better. I think he's going to be a big part of AEW's future, and the WWE really messed up by not snatching him up. And on the women's side, the roster's looking good as well. You may be familiar with some of the talent like Britt Baker, Penelope Ford, and Allie, who's been an Impact regular for many years. But for me, my clearly unbiased opinion is that Chicago's own Kylie Rae is the biggest female signing. Kylie Rae made her wrestling debut about 3 years ago and has only gotten better and more popular ever since. It's unbelievable because her goal when she started wrestling was to wrestle one match. One match. And clearly she's exceeded her goal. She's held women's titles all over the indie scene and has already had some amazing matches with Tessa Blanchard, Kimber Lee, Jordynne Grace. I kind of see her in the same light as MJF. They've both had a ton of success very quickly, they're both young, and they both excel at most attributes in wrestling. I will say that I haven't heard Kylie very much on the mic, but in the ring and around the ring she gets the crowd's attention immediately, and that's huge. Wrestling fans are interested to see what's going to happen in the wrestling world, and they're even chanting AEW at WWE shows now. Overall, I'm very intrigued by AEW, and while I'd love to see another wrestling war, I think we still have to see what kind of presentation AEW puts out before we get the tanks ready. But AEW sure has great hype, and with some of the signings, especially the two I mentioned, they're on their way to something special. I'd love to hear who you're most excited about in AEW, so tweet me at NoBigWeevils. That's NoBigWeevils.
Like what you heard? New episodes drop every week. If you want more content, follow us on Facebook at STF Underground Podcast or on Twitter and Instagram at STF Underground.